I woke up staring at the stained plywood ceiling of an old line cabin, listening to the scratchy static of a battery-powered radio. My own son had locked me out of my 500-acre ranch and stripped my name from the company I had built with my hands over 40 years. Julian thought a set of papers and new security codes gave him the right to erase me. He forgot that the ranch isn't run by ink. It's run by water beneath the soil, and I'm the only one who knows how to open the valves. Let me take you back. For 40 years, my boots hit the floor at 4:30 a.m. every morning. By 5, I was out at the northern boundary. Grease on my hands, turning the heavy iron wheels of the old multi-point irrigation valves. The Texas soil doesn't give easily. It wants to stay gray, cracked, and dry. But I treated it like a partner water it, care for it, and it will give back a livelihood. Keep your word to the grain co-ops and fuel suppliers, and your trucks keep moving. That's how I built Vance Agro Logistics. Simple, honest, based on handshakes and sweat. I thought my family understood. Every Sunday, we sat at the long mahogany table. I usually stayed quiet, passing the roast beef, while my son Julian talked about tailored suits and corporate strategies. He had been managing the public side of the business for 3 years, looking more like a city man who'd never lifted a shovel. His wife Beatrice would swirl her wine glass and make subtle digs about dust on the porch or the smell of diesel baked into the curtains. "Modern logistics don't run on handshakes, Arthur," she said one night, looking straight past me. "We should be maximizing acreage. High-density development is where the money is. Running cattle is just sentimental." Julian nodded along, eyes glued to his tablet. I sipped water and said nothing. I thought their comfort meant respect. I thought they understood the foundation I'd built beneath their feet, the company paying for their luxury SUV and roof over their heads. Then the hydraulic line blew. It was a Tuesday. I was on the old John Deere, clearing brush near the creek, when the high-pressure line snapped. Catching me in the ribs felt like a sledgehammer hit. At the clinic, the doctor wrapped me in tight bandages and said 3 weeks of rest. That evening, Julian came to the kitchen. He brought a thick folder and fresh coffee, unusually quiet, almost gentle. He poured me a cup. "You need rest, Dad," he said softly. "Here's the veterinary logs, fuel invoices, insurance updates. Sign these equipment forms so the lawyers don't harass us. I'll handle the rest." I was tired, ribs throbbing, painkillers making my eyes heavy. I trusted my son. I signed where he guided me, unaware that pages 3 and 4 carried a quitclaim deed and absolute proxy assignment. I handed back the pen, went to bed, and didn't notice the trap I had walked into. 2 days later, ribs still tight, I drove to check the northern fence. The main iron gate, always open since my wife died 14 years ago, was shut. I punched in my 7-digit code, red light, denied. Tried again, red. A new black security camera tracked my truck from above. I pulled out my company phone. "Service deactivated. Contact administrator." Cold, but not panicked. I drove to the co-op for diesel. Card declined. Inside, Tommy, whose father went to school with me, avoided my eyes. "Sorry, Mr. Vance." Julian froze the account. "You're no longer authorized to purchase." "Is my signature still valid?" I asked flatly. He shook his head. "Certified filing. Proxy assignment to Julian. Hands are tied." I drove to the corporate office. The locks had been changed. 2 security guards in black stood on the porch, indifferent. Julian and Beatrice emerged, Julian's suit sharp, shoulders tense, eyes fixed on my shirt pocket. "What is this, Julian?" I asked calmly. "Dust. swirling at our feet. "It's time to face reality, Dad," he said loudly. "Your cognitive decline is worsening. You sign without reading. You're a liability. For the safety of the company and family, I'm in charge. Your things are moved. Go to the place we set up for you." He handed a paper with an address. I drove there, a storage unit. 40 years of my life dumped on the concrete, my wife's framed photos cracked, boots, journals, family records tossed aside, my home hollowed out. I sat on a crate, pulled out my tablet. Every joint account, zero. $412,000 swept into Julian's name. The ribs' ache faded, replaced by a cold stillness. Julian thought the ranch's power was in the ledger, the bank, the deed. He was wrong. I folded the printout, slipped it into my pocket, and smiled quietly. The father was gone. The founder was awake. I moved to an old line cabin on the western edge of the valley. No electricity, just a wood stove and a battery radio. I unpacked the boxes, placed my wife's photo on the table, and logged into my laptop using Hank's hotspot. Julian thought he owned the 500 acres. He didn't know what kept them alive. For 2 weeks, I did nothing. No calls, no herd checks. Most importantly, I stopped maintaining the underground irrigation valves, ancient brass mechanisms, requiring manual adjustment every 48 hours. Only I could read the pressure by sound. Without it, water flow dies. On day 20, Hank texted. Julian was hosting a lavish lunch with Houston developers, planning to lease pastures, bulldoze timber, and start a suburban complex. I drove back. The front door unlocked. Blueprints and plat maps covered the table. Julian at the head, suited men flanking him, Beatrice laughing with sparkling water. Silence fell when my boots hit the hardwood. Beatrice stood, disgusted. "Arthur, you don't live here. Julian, call the sheriff." Julian stood, tense. "Dad, this is a private corporate meeting. You have no standing." I walked past the guard, slid a yellowed, laminated document from 1994 onto the table. "What is this?" Julian sneered. "The permanent county water charter for the valley," I said, "registered under Vance Hydrological. I set it up 32 years ago, before you even knew how to tie your shoes." The developers leaned forward, confused. "Julian," I said, locking eyes with him, "you stole the land on paper, but the subsurface rights, the water, Vance Hydrological owns it. Without my daily signature, this land is non-buildable. You can't pour concrete, can't supply a bathroom, nothing." The developers left immediately. Julian was speechless. The valley turned against him. Pastures dried. Grain co-ops demanded cash up front. Drivers refused to work. The logistics company bled $30,000 a week. Houston developers sued for fraud. Banks froze accounts. Day 35, an engine struggled up my cabin path. Julian, mud-caked and broken, stumbled to the porch. "Dad, please, sign the lease. Everything's gone. Beatrice left. I have nothing. Please, save the family name." I looked at him. No anger, no pity, just the weight of 40 years and a lesson completed. "You aren't sorry for throwing me out," I said quietly. "You're sorry the dirt won't grow without me." "I'm your son," he screamed. "I made a mistake. Please." "A mistake is a broken tool. You made a choice. Choices have consequences." I walked inside, shut the door. 20 minutes later, his SUV drove off. 10 days later, Vance Agro Logistics defaulted. Foreclosure on the 500 acres and all assets. Public liquidation at the town hall. Yesterday, I walked into the auction room. Julian sat alone, hollow-eyed. Corporate liquidators whispered about dismantling trucks and equipment. When bidding stalled at $150,000, I raised my hand. $160,000. The room went silent. Julian turned, mouth open. Cash from hidden Vance hydrological reserves, backed by grain co-op credit. The gavel hit. Sold. I had bought back my life for less than half of what Julian stole. This morning at the main gate, the security camera torn down, 22 trucks lined the gravel drive, engines idling. Drivers nodded silently. I turned the main water valve in the limestone trench. Pipes groaned, water surged. Under my authority alone, Julian thought a deed made him king. He forgot leadership isn't inherited through a stolen pen. It's built in the dirt, with people who trust you, and that is something he could never take.